Over 1,700 new millionaires are created every single day in the US alone, and more than double that across the globe. They're people from all walks of life, most of them people just like you and I. So the big question is this: how are so many people who didn't inherit money or have any special advantages overcoming the odds and becoming millionaires? That's the question, and this show will give you the answers. My name is Jeff Lerner, and welcome to Millionaire Secrets. Welcome to another episode of Millionaire Secrets. Jeff Lerner, your host here. Excited to be back with you for another show. I am joined by Casey Zeman, who I'm tempted to mispronounce and just say he's Casey Zeman.
You can call me Zeman. I'm okay with that, but yeah.
Technically, it's Zeman.
That's my superhero name, Zeman.
Zeman. So anyway, Casey and I connect immediately because we're both fathers. He's got 3 kids. I've got 4. Actually, he's kind of got 4 kids. He's got 3 biological kids and 1 technological kid called EasyWebinar, which I've used, and it's a very sick piece of software. And it's not just a great piece of software, but it's a great piece of software that does a very great thing, which is empower people to scale and automate webinars, which to some people, webinars like a weird word that sounds like 2 words mashed together and they don't know what it means. But to people who know what a webinar is, they know it's like, I don't know, it's like a howitzer, man. It's like, it's the trump card. If you get one dialed in, your whole life changes. So we'll talk about that and many other things, I'm sure. Casey, welcome to Millionaire Secrets.
Jeff, thank you so much for having me, man. I'm excited to talk. We already talked before the show. It resonated. Just to preface this, I'm actually on a farm in Iowa right now. Normally from LA, but we've been here sort of quarantined for the last like 4 or 5 months. And so I'm in my wife's childhood bedroom. This is her parents' farmhouse in Iowa. So
that is super. What part of Iowa?
Like on the Minnesota border.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My business partner lives in West Des Moines.
Okay.
I wondered if you were close, but anyway, well, that's super cool.
Yeah.
I can't imagine why you wanted to get out of LA in the middle of quarantine.
Yeah, right before the lockdown. Why would I want to do that?
Yeah.
With 3 kids, having to homeschool, right? So
my family, every summer we normally go to Southern California for like 2 weeks. We take a bunch of kids. I have 2 teenagers, and we take their friends and stuff. But this summer we're like, we're not going to do that. So we're going up north to like the mountains in Utah just to get a little more rustic. Kind of the same deal. We're going to be in a cabin and just chilling.
I mean, we have the self-isolation, so it's been pretty cool. I mean, we normally do this over the summers anyway, come to the farm and then go to where my family is, off a lake, in Michigan. So, but this is nice. But it's kind of way different than obviously what we know in LA, but LA is different at the moment. So we can't, there's not much to do there. So.
Yeah, my cousin lives there and he sends me updates, and I'm just like so grateful to live in kind of a small town, a little more bucolic setting.
Yeah.
Okay. So like you mentioned, we were talking before I hit record and I'm like, I totally should have been recording all this because it was two marketing nerds, just 2 marketing nerds who are also dads, just kind of like talking through what it's like. And, the point of Millionaire Secrets, the reason I started this show, even to kind of tie in with what we were talking about, is like, I don't want to be a professional podcaster. That's not my gig. I have a big education business. I teach a lot, we have tens of thousands of students, and that's a very meaningful and important part of my life. But day to day, a lot of that work happens now through sequences and people, right? We have a big staff. And so the podcast for me is about the long game. And we, building relationships just like this one, creating a network, creating awareness, doing things that frankly aren't going to pay off today, tomorrow. Like, I'm not getting paid for this time. Frankly, you're not getting paid for this time.
Right.
But a year from now, we might do something cool together, right?
Exactly.
And I think that it made me think as we were talking, and this is, I always want to serve the audience with these conversations. I know that there are a lot of people that are looking at the internet. They might be looking at your software going, well, could this be the thing that unlocks my future? They might be looking at my education company going, could that be the thing, right? They might be looking at a platform or a course on how to launch a podcast and say, could that be the thing, right? I think one of the challenges that people have is there's a lot, you were talking about blogging. We were talking about podcasting, SEO. Writing a book, SEO. There's a lot of things that are good to do if they're good to do for your situation. But a lot of people, I think, are maybe sometimes grasping at the right tool to solve the wrong problem, or vice versa, right? And so I think people got to be honest with themselves and say, where am I, right? Yeah. And what do I need to solve my problem? And so for a lot of people, I guess the question is, should most people start a podcast?
So I think a labor of love is something like a podcast, but there's not a big payoff at all for a long time, right? There's it's just like creating a YouTube channel. Got all upfront work, a lot of work, consistency, a lot of upfront work, not a massive payoff, right? And so if you're depending on where you are in your business, right? If you're, just starting out, or, you're seasoned a bit, you've been doing it for 5-10 years, you're almost to the 7-figure mark, maybe you're to the 7-figure mark, maybe you're pushing into the 8-figure, it depends on the season that you're at in your business. And also the time you have, because what we were talking about was like the long game are those things like creating a podcast and doing initiatives like that. Short game are creating systems that will generate revenue now, right? And I think it really has to be, it's dependent upon where you're at in that season. If you're needing revenue now, you have to focus and prioritize those systems first. And then if you get those in place, the long game is important, but you have to treat it and understand it's a long game. I mean, like affiliate marketing and building relationships with people is not, hey, I can do this right now today. Whereas, if you are a massive hustler, you can put together and offer a funnel and ads to promote that funnel and potentially even see results coming very quickly. So I think it depends on where you're at and, how much you can prioritize, because obviously you and I are dads. I mean, I know my time is like, I feel like I have no time even, with that, right? So it's like, we have to covet our time, especially because we want to devote it to our families as well. So it's like, where do you prioritize? And so I think if you get the systems in place, like where you're at, Jeff, this becomes a labor of love. This becomes a long game, and it'll probably pay off because you're going to be doing much more, partnership stuff, right? As you said, you're writing the book, you're building these relationships, all that stuff. You don't maybe see it today, you maybe see it later. Or maybe people are like, yeah, I know, Jeff. Hey man, I'm going to promote your book. I mean, there's less of I have to follow up 5 times, 10 times, that goes away. And then there is just this more of it. It's easier at that point,
Here's what I'll say about doing a podcast. And I realize most of my audience isn't listening to my podcast because they want to start a podcast. That's not why people listen to the podcast. But I think there's a more universal principle at play with whether you start a podcast or, frankly, whether you build a software company. I mean, nothing's more thankless than building software until it isn't, right? Right. And it's great when you sell a company or whatever, but like people don't see the decade before that. But there is something universal. And I think this is something that you don't have to wait to start, and really you don't have to wait to realize the benefit of. Yeah. If you start giving value, giving attention, giving intention, giving opportunity to others, you start a process. Yeah. That'll come back to you in some predictable ways. but in mostly unpredictable ways.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's ever too soon to start that. I don't think it's ever too soon to be selfless. And I say all the time, like poverty is the most selfish state of mind, because you feel like you don't have the luxury to take care of anyone but yourself. Right.
Right.
And I think the hardest thing is to be selfless when you're also trying, either desperate or maybe just urgent.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'd love to hear your thoughts. I mean, again, nothing's more thankless than building software until it isn't. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on the idea of like this cliche of giving value, but in some non-cliche ways that it really is the right move.
Well, I mean, you have to have a level of faith, I think, when you're at that point, when you're semi-desperate, or you've had a semi-success, or maybe you've had a proof of concept in something, right? And the faith is that this will pay off at some point, right? I mean, if you hire somebody to work for you, that claim that they can do X, Y, and Z, there's only so much you can have them claim before you have to have a little bit of faith that they're going to be able to produce the results that you want, right? Especially if you're going to have to spend 15 and you only have 5, you know what I mean? So I think that we were also talking about this, that, to be able to take a risk, which in our minds may be mitigated like a risk that, it's a calculated risk, right? All the way to is this stupid or not, right? I think it's there's a lot of, there's a fine line between, being, stupid, or, just having that a little bit of faith that you can pull yourself up and actually get something done, right? I mean, so when I was starting the software game, I was a course creator who started to see success with webinars, but I was running webinars every single day and I was getting burnt out. So I talked to some developers about doing an automated webinar, and because I think there was another product out there that talked about automated webinars. This is even before the Evergreen Business System. I don't know how long ago you've been doing this, but even before then, and I was I asked some developers, I wanted to get this developed and for WordPress, because I had a WordPress site. And so I talked to them, they gave me some quotes, and then, I had it, it was starting to be built. And I made money in my education program, right? And I spent it on my SaaS platform. And, part of that was, I went in with ambition. I had wild dreams and ambitions, like maybe I can do this, maybe I can do this. I didn't go to school for software. I had no idea about any of this stuff. So I just found somebody on Odesk at the time, it was now Upwork, and just went that way. And I had no idea about anything regarding software. I didn't know about, how to create a SaaS company. I didn't know about, wireframes for, the product ahead of time, design, just everything that you should know about creating a software company and creating software in general, to create even a minimum viable product. I had no idea. I went completely blank. And luckily, after a while, it paid off, because I think we did, after I dumped a bunch of money into it in end of 2013. And then in 2014, it was still clunky and crazy, but I maybe, made $100,000 on the product. But then in 2015, I started doing and leveraging partnerships, right? So I went into affiliate marketing at the time, and then, got the tool and had some people using the tool. I mean, the biggest thing I can say for how we grew and how we were able to launch is I reached out to people I knew from when I was doing my course stuff. I said, hey, can we set you up with a webinar? And so I started seeing results because we had John Lee Dumas using our automated webinar system, and Kimmer Luna and a few other people that were having success with our webinar platform. And that allowed me to go back to them when we did our launch to say, hey, would you want to launch with us? And then we did $1 million launch in the beginning of the end of 2015 was the first time we ever did that. And that was when EasyWebinar was a lifetime tool, right? So even then I was selling it for as a license of like $500 or something like that, right? Not even full SaaS. We didn't go full SaaS monthly until 2018. And that's the crazy thing. And it's just because I came through as a product creator, right? Came through as someone who, just was the launch concept. And so in 2016, I vowed to try to go and just, do this without affiliates, right? So 2016, 2017, we did everything mostly without affiliates, right? Because I knew that if I was just solely relying on affiliates, things would probably shut down. So I started spending more time with just us getting our systems in place so that we could sell better. And then, reaching into 2018, I put EasyWebinar into its own corporation. So first I had to figure out systems for selling, and then I had to be better at creating an organization because I sucked at that, right? Everything was under my own, my S corporation. Money flowed in right into my bank account. It only until 2018 did I create a separate bank account for EasyWebinar, C Corp EasyWebinar, started to treat it like an actual organization and company, and had C-suite level, positions, SOPs. I mean, all the boring stuff that you can think of, did we actually start to do well? And then we always did well, but that's when we started to see a lot more upward trajectory and growth, because then we became a monthly SaaS platform. We focused on churn reduction on the back end. We focused on retention on the front end. We only created a free trial last August, right? That was the first time we created a free trial. And we've seen a massive growth from the free trial. So I've gone through all the ups and downs and the, weathering the storm and having to figure out sort of the best way to do all this. It's never a straight line. It's like, it's knowing that you could be better. It's knowing that, it's like, I'm never resting on anything because I know that I'm not the smartest one doing this stuff. Right. So I always go back out and try to reassess, relearn, reimagine. We do it from a business perspective, organizational perspective, and then going back into the product and saying, how can we improve the software tool itself? So that's kind of like the growth story, but it's been a very interesting process. If you would ask me, 10 years ago, if I thought I would have had a software tool, I would have said like, no, that doesn't make any sense.
So here's what my brain is extracting from your story, and I'm applying some of my own history to it, but it's kind of where we started with the long game conversation is, I've known a fair number of SaaS CEOs, but there's a much smaller group of SaaS CEOs that don't have to go raise money for their platform, that are actually self-funded, which maybe I'm making an assumption there, but I didn't hear you say anywhere that you went and brought on VC, right?
Yeah.
So that's a pretty small group of SaaS CEOs that actually get to profitability building software that they pay for the development of.
Yeah.
Obviously Brunson did it with ClickFunnels.
Yeah.
I actually talked to a guy yesterday who did it with an agency software, but it's a small group of people, like probably less than 10% of SaaS CEOs. So
yeah,
it's really hard. Like you just told the story in a, fairly, there were some twists and turns, but like it was also kind of an elegant telling.
Yeah.
I know from the people that I know that have done it, that it is brutally hard to be, it's literally like trying to fly a plane and assemble the plane at the same time. And trying to fly a plane that isn't actually built to fly yet. It's like, you're doing this, or I don't know, you're like turning some cranks so fast to make some flaps go like this.
You're a Wright brother trying to get this thing off the ground, right?
I mean, it's exhausting. And so, first of all, I just want to acknowledge you for that.
Thank you, man.
And get to, but also to some degree, you were able to do that because of relationships, it sounds like. I mean, at a certain point, you're like, hey, we got to fund this. Let's do a launch. We need affiliates. Obviously, it's not our long-term plan to rely on affiliates, which, by the way, I launched an online education company, which is an industry that's hugely driven by affiliates.
Yeah.
And we had for the first year we did, and I was kind of morphing out of a previous offer, but for the first year I did that, I basically killed my whole affiliate program because I wanted to be self-reliant and control my own destiny. And now we reopened affiliates, and we have like an 80-20 guidance internally where we don't want more than 20% of our traffic coming from affiliates. But anyway, my point is, I'm right there with you. Like I appreciate how hard that is too. Once you have affiliates, they're like, it's the crack, and it's so easy to get hooked on it.
Yes.
And then to go, no, I'm not going to do crack. I'm going to go to the gym and get healthy and create my own endorphins. That's exhausting too.
I think your 80-20 does make sense. It's exhausting, but your 80-20 does make sense. Like, I mean, I just don't know if it should be more than, 20, maybe 30% of your revenue or your traffic, right, coming in from affiliates, because if you can sustain yourself without them, I think that's the key factor, right? And being able to have those systems in place all the while, the icing on the cake is the affiliate program, right? I think is
and good. That itself is long game, because affiliates are short term, man. If you got a guy who's got a big list and you call him up and you're like, bro, I owe you one, just hit your list, pop, you can make a couple $100,000, and it's so tempting. But this is what I've learned. And again, I hope people are extracting less. I want people to be able to extract lessons from everything we're saying that they can apply no matter what stage they're at. And this long game, this beginning with the end in mind concept, if you can do it the hard way and actually do it and pull it off. And by the way, we're capable of so much more than we think.
Yeah.
To where you actually probably can do it the hard way, even if you don't think you can.
Yeah.
You should.
Yeah.
If you can self-fund and bootstrap, you should. It's so easy to go raise money, especially with SaaS. Yeah. There's guys throwing money that they'll buy 80% of your SaaS platform,
Yes.
anytime
Yeah. I mean, it might be, okay, we're not, I think that's the thing. It's like, you're right. It's not the easiest way to go. But it has its rewards, it definitely has its rewards to be able to say that and to do that. You're going to have people on the other side of the table that's going to say, no, why would you do that? It's nuts. Just get a VC, hire VC, dump some money into it, show that your revenue growth is X, sell it for, 10X later, right? I mean, You're going to have people that would say completely contrary to what we've said. But I do think that there's something to be said about going through the licks. If you've been punched a couple times because you've done this on your own, that's just going to make you stronger for anything. I mean, when I was first starting out, even growing my online business, like I went from a real estate company where I was doing like $245,000 a year, and I bought my house, and then suddenly the recession hit, and I went from $245,000 a year to $15,000 the next year. And so I had to figure something out to keep my house. And that's when I went into online marketing, when I started learning about YouTube and became a YouTube marketing person. And that was my first course all about YouTube.
When was that?
That was a long time ago. That was like 2010.
Okay.
2010, 2011. I didn't make any money online till like 2012.
So you started in 2010.
I started learning about this stuff in 2010. Okay. Still a mortgage broker in 2010. And then still doing that in 2011, but then pivoting over to being a YouTube consultant. So I started consulting people like Estee Lauder, Dell, HarperCollins with video marketing stuff. And then I had the dream of creating an online course. And so I spent 6 months building a course all about YouTube called YouTube Revealed. And when I finally finished building it, I couldn't get it off the ground. No one would buy it. I couldn't get people to buy it. And that's when I saw people doing webinars, and literally the way that I got people to buy is I started doing videos in YouTube, inviting people to a workshop. This is before I was doing anything with ads. I was mostly doing all organic stuff. So I'd invite people to a workshop all about how to get it on the first page of Google using YouTube, and they show up. And I was so terrified about selling, I just did like free no pitch webinars just to build value and to get like a list built up. And I was so bad at doing webinars that I was just petrified until people were like, is there something we can buy here? And I actually did these webinars while finishing my course. And I was like, I still have to add this thing or that thing or this thing or that thing or this thing or that thing. And it's just like, you know what I mean? It's like it was that whole fear of launching, perfectionist thing. Yeah. And finally people were like, can I buy this? How can I do this? And then I started selling because people were direct messaging me. And I started selling that way, ad hoc, right? And then eventually I was like, I really have to promote. I have to pitch. I have to make a pitch in a webinar. So I think that's when I started doing it. 2012, I maybe 3 months in, I started pitching on the webinar and started selling my course at $197. And I was terrible at it, but I still made sales. I remember one of my first good webinars, I made a couple grand in sales. And I was like, oh my God, it's amazing. But then I had a bunch of people like refund. And I was like, what's happening here? So I raised my price by $100, and I had double the sales, but still some refunders, which is kind of weird. And then I had some guy who was like, I want to promote your product. I like it a lot. I came through and bought it, but we have to bump it up to $997. And so I was like, okay, how am I going to do that? So I was like, I'll just add this like 30-minute coaching consultant thing to it. And then when I put it out there on a webinar, I sold just as many as I was on trend at the 297. Yeah. But I had zero refunds. And so I was like, I think I'll just keep it at that and make sure, because I figured out I realized that, higher the price, better clientele, fewer people are going to refund, right? And then I added in, conditional money back guarantees about, hey, going through the course, send me homework, and then if you send me the homework, if you show me you're doing the work, then you can get refunded after 30 days, right? That became our new policy. And then that, of course, also creates no refunds as well. Not to mention the tool, the program was actually a good program. Right. So I just learned that process, right? I don't know how I got on this trend of talking about that, but yeah, that was the kind of the thing I had to go through.
I know at least one person who is super interested in conversations about pricing, reducing refunds, how to shift your avatar and find your optimized funnel. Your dialed in funnel points. So at least one guy is could have just this conversation for hours. I realize we probably will find, we'll navigate into other things too, but I actually think there's huge value here. You may not, somebody listening, you'd be like, well, I don't have a thing. It's never too soon to start reframing your view of the world into the way a marketer views the world. I think there is so much power in the way marketers view the world, because, here's the thing. I'm always kind of making assumptions well, who's listening to Millionaire Secrets? And I have limited information. I know what YouTube tells me about the demographics of my channel. So basically I know how many men and women there are, and I kind of roughly know how old people are, but that's not like particular, and I know what country they're in. That's not particularly useful, right?
Right.
I know who ends up in my education company, and that's more useful, but even that's kind of anecdotal, you know, what I hear from people and from the, you know, advisors and our support and all that.
Yep.
So we're always kind of drawing conclusions, and I know who messages me. I know who I get DMs from. I get a lot of DMs from young people, but frankly, I think that's just because young people are more comfortable DMing.
Yeah.
You know, so what I want everybody to hear is, as marketers, as entrepreneurs, and as business owners, and we use the term marketer like it's this like special thing, but I think every business owner should be a marketer. If you're not a marketer and you own a business, you're basically at war with yourself.
Right.
Like, I'm not a marketer. Do you not like money? Why are you in business? Like, what?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Or like someone who says like, I'm not a salesperson. Like, you know, like do
you run a charity?
Yeah. Like being a salesperson is not like being a being slimy and salesy. Like that's the opposite of what you should be by definition of what is a salesperson or a marketer. You should just be someone who's so like, you're so passionate about your own product that, you know, when someone buys it, it's not like, thank you for buying it. It's more like, yes, you were going to get so many results from this product. It's like, that's not, what is that? That's just you believing in what you have, right?
And the person that got a hold of you and said, listen, man, you need to charge more for this.
Yeah.
And you need to add the value to it such that you're really, really confident charging more for it.
Right.
That was a bit of morphing Casey into a marketer.
Yes.
Marketers should be excited to charge for their products. They should be excited to take money for their products, because a marketer is somebody who wants to serve and believes in the value of what they offer in order to serve, right?
And get that result.
Yeah.
They want that person to get a result. So it's like, you spent $10,000 with me, I'm excited for you because you're going to get a result, you know? Like that's, people should be feeling that. They should have that belief pattern in what they're doing.
And here's why I love being a marketer. And I used to really struggle with this. I had my own version of your journey. Like I had deservability issues. I felt guilty. I was like relieved when people would refund, because I'd be like, oh, I don't owe them anything. Right? But becoming a marketer is about becoming objective. Yeah. For me. Yeah. And which becoming objective is about getting out of your feelings and also getting out of what you imagine other people's feelings to be.
Yeah.
And by the way, it makes you, for me, I'm a way better husband. I'm a way better dad. I'm a way better leader. I'm a way better CEO. And I'm a way better salesperson, because I actually feel like feelings are like this tyrant. And I don't want to be ruled by a tyrant, mine or another person's.
Right.
And I think that marketer think is the cure for so much of what ails all of us in the world. And I hope everybody hears that and goes, man, I want to start to view the world through the lens of demographics. And by the way, let me say that I'm not talking, actually in a way I am. I'm talking about the good kind of profiling.
Yeah.
The profiling that's not about who can I harm, it's about who can I serve the best.
Yeah. Because if you're out of alignment with that, that's when emotions, you're either getting emotion getting some emotion coming at you, or you're having an emotional experience because someone's not aligned with getting a result from you. And so you're having a feeling about it.
Yeah. And I love that view of the world. And I think that like, if, I get messages from kids, like I said, 14, 15, 16-year-old. Hey, I want to be a millionaire. You have a show called Millionaire Secrets. What's the secret? I want to be a millionaire. I'm like, listen, man, there's not a lot you can do right now without your parents' permission, but it's never too soon to start changing evolving how you view the world. Right. And this is the kind of stuff that I hope people take from the show. So let me back up then to when you're in real estate. First, how long were you in real estate?
Oh man. I mean, I was an actor in LA, and then I didn't like being a broke actor. So I went into real estate because I also had like a girlfriend and I was wanting to marry her. And so I went in real estate. I was probably in real estate for like 3 years, and then sort of the market crashed at that point.
So you were, okay, well, hold on. Then I want to back up to when you were an actor. How long were you an actor?
I mean, I was, right out of college, I went to school for acting and opera, right? So, and then I was first going to school for theater and opera, and then I combined them together for music theater. And then I went to Chicago right after school and was in, plays, and I did a couple movies there and commercials. And then I went to New York. Then I went to LA for pilot season. And then I liked LA, but moved back to Chicago, did more stuff there, and then moved to New York. And it was just like every move I did, I was always doing like something like a play or something like that, but not 100% successful.
Yeah.
And then I moved to LA the last time and, did some episodes of stuff. But still, I was always working at a restaurant. I mean, my friends that I know now, like I have so many actor friends who they've been in 100 credits, but still, they don't necessarily have foundationally home, kids. Right. They may have kids, but they don't have, I don't know.
Like a stable base.
It's not, because as an actor, you're still held within somebody else's decisions on how you generate revenue, right? Unless you are creating the content yourself and producing it yourself. I think, for me, I felt like I was at the mercy of my manager or agent, right? And I just didn't like that. So I went into real estate and started my own company basically with a friend of mine, and then we did that. And then when that fell apart, I was like, I'm never going to be working for somebody else. I have to figure something else out. And so that's when I found out from one of my friends was actually doing internet marketing, and I learned from him, and I had to figure something out. First, I was looking for leads for my real estate company, but then I started liking marketing. I started liking like YouTube, and he said to me, focus on one thing, find out what you're good at, because I didn't know what I was going to sell. I was just absorbing marketing. And so I started to dabble into YouTube, and I started getting good at YouTube with customers or with clients. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to create a course and become a video marketing guy. And that's what I did effectively. And then I couldn't sell it until I started using webinars, which became the proof of concept that webinars work. And I want to not just be someone leveraging it, but create a tool for people to leverage it, right? I love that there are people that are our customers that can do $20,000 to $40,000 a day using our system, right? Mm-hmm. And that's 90% of their revenue comes from the tool that we give them as, that they have in their marketing, marketing engine, right? And that feels good. It feels good to know that we have that responsibility, and then also that we continue to problem solve to make sure we get better and better at it. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm a glutton for punishment, but I just like that I have to apply more to, it's not just me, it's the people I serve, that I have to make sure things are working better and performing better and better and better, right? It is a harder road in the sense that, if I took every time, our server would crash personally, because I sometimes do. I'm like, oh God, I'm sure Russell Brunson takes that personally when something closes down. But we've had to put things in place, processes in place, just ways to buffer against any issues that would arise, right? And we take on that risk and responsibility because we want to do bigger things, I think, in the marketplace. We have a new brand coming out, EasySuite.com, so we have a new CRM tool built for sales teams. It's like a lighter version of like a Salesforce, but it's also like a combination of like Close.io or Close.com and a few other ones, because it has a lead finder tool, has an auto dialer, and it's a pipeline management type of thing. And we just see that tool and EasyWebinar going under that brand, and just like tools for selling better. We just want to be able to create tools that help people sell better, but leveraging what I personally believe in, which is like, engagement, direct connection, conversation, community. Those are things that I've always done because I started as an actor. I love video. And it just, that is sort of in the back of my mind all the time of the products I'm creating. I just want more conversation and connection.
So I'm always, and I appreciate you sharing your backstory with me, because I'm always looking for the real, I mean, our show's called Millionaire Secrets, right? Like, what's the real secret? Like, because like we were talking about before, 1 million people apply for entrepreneurial greatness.
Right.
A very small percentage of people come out the other side. It's like being a Navy SEAL or something, right? Like it's there's Hell Week and there's buds. Only for some of us, it lasts for years. Some of us, it lasts for decades.
Yeah.
And so I'm always trying to get back to the source energy of like, what gave this person the ability to see it all the way through? Were you thinking of something?
I was going to tell you, Jeff. So when I went from $245,000 a year to $15,000, right? First off, I can say that my wife is probably the main reason for any hunkering down and pushing through the crap, right? Just, banging through walls. Okay. I give it to my wife, and I give it to my wife because like at the time that I was doing this, where I was going to lose we almost went into foreclosure twice. And my wife was like, you know what? She asked me one night, like, because I was like, let's just short sale the house. Let's just short sale the house or let it go to foreclosure, And she was like, but if we do that, how would that make you feel 5-10 years down the road? Like she didn't just say like, no, stupid ass, like, don't let that happen. Figure it out. She didn't say figure it out like that. But the way she positioned it made me realize that like this is crunch time. I had to make something happen, right? I was up against the wall. Something had to happen. And so I let that pressure fuel moving to the next phase of being able to accomplish this, right? Or generating revenue as a consultant, right? So I think that that I allowed that stress to manifest into actually, a milestone of success, and then another milestone of success, right? And so I think if we apply pressure and enough pressure and have something to lose, then we're going to be able to accomplish a bigger goal, right? If we're comfortable and we have nothing to lose, then what is going to be the driver towards the end, right? What's going to motivate us to the next level? So I don't know. And I think that once you stretch your abilities to be able to motivate yourself, that muscle, if you do that enough, then the next time you have to reach that next milestone, it's easier, right? Just like working out becomes, working out becomes easiar, right? Like lifting the heavier weights becomes easier when you lift heavier weights, right? And so we train ourselves to where hard is hard, but we can do it in an easier way, right? We still are handling, we're still breaking through walls, but now we're stronger. We can break through those walls. So does that make sense, or am I just?
Oh, it makes. I mean, yeah, you're preaching to the converted here. At this point, I get very uncomfortable. And by the way, literally, I was recording another interview earlier this afternoon, and we talked about the exact same thing. And this was a guy that had lived in his car. This was a guy that was in prison for a couple of years. And it's easy to look at him now and be like, oh, his life's so great. He speaks all over the world and gets paid, $50,000 for a keynote. But man, we got into the exact same conversation that like you will rise to the level of your conditioning and comfort with doing really, really hard things. And if you don't have a level of conditioning and comfort of doing really, really hard things, there's no level to rise to. You're soft.
Yeah.
And so let me ask you this, man. Now you're the successful SaaS CEO, and do you still try to make things hard, or seek out challenge, or make sure you don't like lose your edge?
I think what I do is I look at it. I have to keep, like, now I'm responsible for more people, right?
Yeah.
Like we've got employees, right? So when we're looking at that, I have to be able to say we can grow, while at the same time I have to make sure that my employees and the people working for our organization and company are doing the utmost they can. So I have to make harder decisions instead of doing the hard work. I'm not talking about me staying up till 2 a.m. having to create a page, right? Now I have to make harder decisions on who we hire. I have to use intuition, and also just know if I should be relying on someone on my team in a good way to make decisions, or if I should be making the decisions. So now I think it's more about making harder decisions. So I don't think I try not to make, I'm not trying to manifest hard. I just have to make hard decisions, whether it's dropping somebody and hiring somebody else that's going to cost, twice as much, right? Mm-hmm. Or something to that effect, right? We just have to make harder decisions, and it's about getting to that harder decision faster, making the decision and then going with it faster, So, but
to be clear, there was a time when you were staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning building that page.
Yes. There was, I was, I was having all-nighters when I was doing my launch stuff, but that was me. It was me. I had maybe 2 people working for me, but they were like off and on. They weren't on salary, So it was different then,
And I know that
now it's.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I know that a lot of people listening might be at the staying up till 2 in the morning building their page phase. Yeah. Certainly, I've got thousands of people in my education company that are, and I assume a lot of them also listen to the show, that are in that staying up till 2 in the morning building the page, or hopefully listening to the show phase. And I spent years there. And by the way, I don't know if you know, I was a professional piano player who wrote a couple musicals, and we probably have a whole other thing we could. And I did some acting, and started my own show, and that was a whole other world. Which, by the way, nobody works harder than actors and musicians. I mean, that is brutal. And with
you have to have a thick skin, and disappointment after disappointment. I mean, that may be the reason.
No certainty whatsoever about anything.
Right.
Which itself is its own excruciatingly difficult way to exist, of just with no certainty ever. Even if you get
something.
The gig, the gigs fall through all the time. Mm-hmm. It wasn't, anyway, so that's a whole other conversation. But to get where Casey is right now, making hard decisions, literally with other people's livelihoods hanging in the balance of those decisions. If it weren't for all the nights building pages at 2 in the morning, that's what I mean about the conditioning.
Yeah.
That you're meant to stack hard, on top of hard, you stack a little harder and a little harder and a little higher stakes and a little bigger consequences and a little more liabilities. It has to stack that way. You can't go you don't want to go to the top too fast. Honestly, if you change your altitude too fast, you get the bends.
Yeah.
Your brain gets all scrambled. So anyway, listen, man, I actually know that you have another commitment and we have to wrap time-wise, and I want to respect that. But man, despite the name of your platform, EasyWebinar, it's actually good to embrace the difficulty and the challenges. But let's talk a little bit, or not get into a whole thing, but I want you to share. We didn't even really get into talking about webinars.
Yeah.
I think everybody knows what they are. I talk about them I talk about marketing automation a lot on my show. how can people go learn more about the amazing world of webinars and your software in particular?
Well, if you go to just EasyWebinar, like EASY webinar, all spelled out, I have 2 masterclasses right there at the top. There's a drop down, and you can sign up for a how to sell your stuff 24/7, leveraging one webinar. And then another one that's basically how to create a 6-figure or how to create a high converting sales webinar. So I think it's 6 steps to a high converting sales webinar. So both are good. The 24/7 one, you know, if you're someone who understands webinars, but you want to be able to sell more consistently with them, you want to create a process using webinars to sell your products better, that one is really good. The other one teaches a framework, a 6-step framework on how to basically sell better on a webinar. Both are really good to go through, but I'd say do one and then the other. But then if you guys anyone wants to direct message me, you could just do it at Casey Zeman on Instagram and just connect with me and tell me where you found me, and I'd be happy to help out with anything, you know, any questions.
Yeah, I'm just gonna sort of, you know, edify to my audience. Like, Casey's a really smart guy. It's really hard to build SaaS products. It's really hard to also be a great marketer. And a lot of tech CEOs are not great marketers. So to find someone who's both, I'm going to suggest that's a person that you want to learn from. So definitely get involved in Casey's world. Check him out on Instagram. Check out his platform. Also, we have put together an offer for the audience. That's our free book. This is a printed copy, but it's actually an ebook. It's pretty short, but it's the Millionaire Shortcut, and it's the fastest way to become a millionaire in the new economy. And it's basically like, I can sum it up by saying it's like everything I did in the last 12 years, including using webinars, by the way. Nice. And if you go to millionairesecrets.com/KCZ, then we will know that you heard about it on this episode and get that for free. Also check out Casey's stuff. I just want to say thanks to the Millionaire Secrets audience out there. Appreciate you all so much. I hope that this conversation has encouraged you that, like, look, if an actor and a jazz pianist can do it, and especially, Casey, what I love, I just have to say, and we were talking about this before we even hit record, that, like, you don't have to be great. You don't have to be confident, but there's actually no substitute for, like, acting the part.
Yeah.
And backfilling it with actual skill and ability. And now I understand why, because you're an actor. So
yeah. I took on the part, and then the part became me, right?
Yeah. I think that's amazing. Anyways, thanks for your time. Thanks for being on the show, and thanks to the whole audience out there. We'll catch you on the next episode. Thank you for watching Millionaire Secrets. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and leave us a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you know whenever we release a new episode. Also, if you want to learn the fastest way to become a millionaire in the new economy, click the link in the description below to claim your free copy of my book, The Millionaire Shortcut. And don't forget, Millionaire Secrets is available on all the major podcast platforms as well. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you can listen on the go. Thanks for watching.